Hello and welcome to this video in the series of top tips videos. In this video we're going to talk about the different types of clutterholic. This is really important because we may watch the TV programs and think, oh, that's great, I'm not as bad as that. But there are varying levels of clutterholic. We're not all a hoarder. Thankfully, but equally we're not all completely clear of clutter. One of the challenges is that those people who are naturally clutter free and have never had a clutter challenge will often try to help those people who haven't had a clutter challenge, and it can be difficult for them to necessarily understand and relate to what it is that we experience when we have our clutter challenge, and you'll probably become quite aware of that as we go through the different types of clutterholic. Now, part of the reason why the TV programs and the books don't tell you about the different types of clutterholic is because the scale that is devised here is based on my 12 years of experience. I have worked with thousands of people over those years. I work on a one-to-one basis or via the Clutter Clearing TV channel, on average with 100 to 200 people a year. When I first started out, I only used to do the home visits. Then I discovered that the home visits actually don't help us create the lasting habits and skills that we need in order to be able to completely clear our clutter and stay clutter free. I had too many clients who were coming back because they got cluttered again because of that fantastic accumulation end of the conveyor belt. So again, I've worked with enough people over the years and had enough challenges and successes to be able to devise and identify 5 different types of clutterholic, and you may well be able to recognise yourself in one or more of the descriptions that I'm about to explain to you and share with you. Now then, if we think about the type of clutterholic, we're on a scale. At one end of the scale is the hoarder. I apologise now for my handwriting. I do try to be neat and tidy so that people can read it. So at one end of the scale is the hoarder. This represents about 6% of the clients that I've worked with over the last 12 years. I now, because working with a hoarder is physically and emotionally quite draining for me, the maximum is that I will work with 2 hoarders at any one time. I do advise on hoarding task forces in America and Canada. Not here in the UK, we haven't got any hoarding task forces yet. But hopefully councils and social services will get to a point here in the UK where they have some hoarding task forces. But I do advise, although I may not necessarily be directly working with the hoarders, I will, because I've reached my limit, I will advise people on how to help a hoarder. It's not uncommon for me to actually work with a social worker who is doing the implementing with the hoarder, actually doing the practical, doing the doing, whereas I advise over the telephone or via Skype to help that hoarder. As long as they have a support team, then we can make progress. So that's at one end of the scale, and that's what you're probably familiar with in these TV programs that show somebody who has got a clutter challenge. At the other end of the scale, we have clear. We have the clear end of the scale. Now, a lot of the experts have only ever been at this end of the scale. They've never actually had a clutter challenge. That's where I like to think I'm slightly different, because I have been there. I have had a clutter challenge. I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed, to procrastinate, to struggle to make decisions, to be scared of making decisions, to have to live with the feeling and the look and the fear of the safety element of having having my clutter. You know, if not for me, for my cat, you know, worried about piles of clutter falling on top of her. So at this end of the scale, people have never had a clutter challenge. And surprise, surprise, none of my clients over the years have actually been at this end, because obviously they don't need my help. I do get people at this end of the scale who contact me and say, Claire, I'd like to learn how to be a clutter coach like you. I actually won't allow anybody to go on my training program to become a clutter coach if they're at this end of the scale, unless they have experience of what it's like to be somewhere else on the scale, either direct or indirect, unless they know what it's like to live with clutter, not just visit it, but live with it. That's part of my selection criteria for people training to become a clutter coach. But we do have we have 4 types of clutterholic, between completely clear and a hoarder. What are they? Okay, we're going to start off at this end of the scale. Now, the first type of clutterholic that I'm going to describe to you is the secret clutterholic. Secret. Okay, and over the years, these account for 10% of the people that I have helped, either in their home or via the Clutter Clearing TV channel. Generally, somebody who is a secret clutterholic doesn't need a huge amount of help. Subscribing to the Clutter Clearing TV channel is sufficient, doing 1 3-hour clutter clearing session with me each and every week. So that's not requiring a massively intensive level of help and support. Totally capable of clearing their clutter once they know the hows of doing it, and they have the accountability of making time and turning up to the live sessions on the Clutter Clearing TV channel. So what are the characteristics of a secret clutterholic? Let me share with you what they are. A secret clutterholic can easily be mistaken for somebody who doesn't have a clutter challenge. So somebody who's clear, because they're experts at hiding their clutter. So with a secret clutterholic, you're likely to see that they have hidden clutter rather than visible clutter. You wouldn't walk into a room and go, oh, this person's cluttered, because it would all be hidden and stuffed away. A secret clutterholic is an expert at hiding their clutter. The clutter is often, but not always, predominantly paperwork clutter. They have very slightly more coming onto their conveyor belt than coming off. So only a little amount accumulates over a long period of time. Their clutter creeps back without them realising over a period of several months or more. They usually do a grocery shop once a week, and perhaps a different type of shop, such as clothes or electrical items, books, household, once a month, or when they genuinely need something. They usually have blitzes on their clutter, maybe once or twice a year, maybe more frequently. They succeed in getting things out of their home quickly and easily, but because they haven't created the new habits that they need to reduce the accumulation of potential clutter, the clutter eventually returns because they still have more coming into their home than going out. They often believe that they just need help to get on and do it, make time, or with making decisions. They rarely have the patience to do a little and often to create the new habits required to maintain what they achieve with the blitz, but they want a quick and easy solution, although most of them live to realise that there is no quick and easy solution. They usually procrastinate about doing some decluttering. Then they reach a point, perhaps when they can't hide anymore, where they have a blitz. So a blitz to get things off. They often don't think there's an underlying reason for having their clutter, but instead believe it's because they don't have enough time or space. They will rarely ask for help or seek help, simply because they don't think it's bad enough to warrant the investment of their time or of having an expert help that would save them time and money in the long run. If you open their cupboards, drawers and out-of-sight places, you would probably find their belongings stuffed in and disorganised. More than half, 50% of the contents of their clutter are out-of-date things, to-do jobs that haven't been done, things that have been bought to use but never actually used. The rest is predominantly sentimental things that they struggle to let go of. Someone who is a secret clutterholic can still use their rooms and or move the clutter in one room into another so that guests don't see any clutter, as long as they don't wander into those other rooms. Secret clutterholics are often very social, active people, hence the problem with making time to control the clutter when it does accumulate. And finally, secret clutterholics are often, not always, but often, defined as carers, either literally or of the personality, where they prioritise other people's needs and helping others above their own needs and time. So does that sound familiar? Can you relate to some or all of what's in that description of a secret clutterholic? Don't decide yet what type of clutterholic you think you might be, because we have got a couple of others to consider. But again, a secret clutterholic is described as that, and again, you wouldn't necessarily see much clutter. Now then, when I had my clutter challenge, I used to be very organised before then. I'd never had a problem until I moved into a house, and my challenge got out of hand when I was there. So with me and with most of the people that I have worked with, they have started out as clear. There is a point in their past where they were clutter free and they were organised and they didn't have a clutter challenge. But then they started down the track of accumulating and they hit the point of a secret clutterholic. So most people will recognise themselves at some point, not necessarily now, but at some point in the past, they were a secret clutterholic. If you continue to accumulate clutter, you go from being a secret clutterholic to being a mild clutterholic. A mild clutterholic. And this is like 12%. 12% of my clients are at the mild stage on the scale. How do we know if we're a mild clutterholic? Okay, here's the characteristics of a mild clutterholic. See if you recognise yourself in any or all of the following. A mild clutterholic can often be mistaken for someone who is simply untidy. The name comes from the fact that they have hidden clutter like the secret clutterholic, plus some visible clutter, which is usually paper related and piles on surfaces and or boxes. You're likely to see with the mild clutterholic, the majority of their clutter is paperwork, newspapers, post, things printed off from the computer, flyers, and grocery shopping such as buy one get one free, special offers, etc. They have piles of paperwork, newspapers, post, catalogues on worktops and surfaces, maybe in a filing cabinet or two, that is stuffed and overflowing so no more can go in it. Cupboards, attics, garages stuffed with clutter that they want out of sight. A mild clutterholic is an expert at putting things down on surfaces and forgetting about them. I did that a lot. Their clutter is generally only a couple of months old because they have a blitz. So a blitz, getting things off the conveyor belt, relatively frequently. Services become landings for things that that's been brought into the home and put down temporarily. although they may actually not get moved or dealt with for quite a while. I used to put things down temporarily, I'll deal with that later, and then it would act as a clutter magnet. Other things would be put on top, couldn't find it, so I'd have to print it off again. A mild clutterholic will usually struggle with making time on a daily basis to action the clutter that has accumulated, such as reading the newspapers and things printed off the computer, opening the post, paying bills, other to-do list items. They usually have blitzes, so getting a lot off the conveyor belt, on their clutter maybe once or twice a year, maybe more frequently. They succeed in getting things out of their home quickly and easily, but because they haven't created the new habits that they need to reduce the accumulation end of the conveyor belt and to keep their homes organised, so dealing with this area of the conveyor belt, the clutter eventually returns because they still have more coming into their home than going out of their home. A mild clutterholic will usually move one pile of clutter and put it on another pile of clutter if they need workspace, rather than deal with the pile. A mild clutterholic will often believe their problem is not enough time to deal with or not enough storage. Therefore, will often have storage solutions amongst their clutter. I had that. The motivation for a mild clutterholic to deal with their clutter will often be visitors arriving or a seasonal reason, such as New Year's resolutions, spring cleans. A mild clutterholic never reaches the point of being encouraged by others to deal with the clutter. Until they have a tidy up or declutter session, a mild clutterholic will usually have a little visible clutter in most rooms. Therefore, they can move the clutter from one room to another if they don't want visitors to see their clutter. A mild clutterholic will have relatively regular tidy up declutter sessions where they are able to deal with the majority of the visible clutter in a day or two. A mild clutterholic struggles to keep on top of new and incoming clutter. Friends and family are likely to think that the mild clutterholic just needs a tidy up. And finally, a mild clutterholic can quickly and easily become a habitual clutterholic, which we'll come on to, because of procrastination and denial. Sound familiar? You might be a mild clutterholic. So I definitely know that I reached that stage, but I didn't stop there. After I'd reached that stage, I stopped inviting people round and I carried on. Now then, the next type of clutterholic is the comfort clutterholic. Now this is a relatively new type of clutterholic. This is one that I've identified that started to become much more apparent when the recession hit. Since 2008, the comfort clutterholic has increased in quantity and volume. And this comfort clutterholic, it now represents 16% of all the people that I help, whether it be in their home, whether it be private coaching on the telephone or Skype, or whether it be via the Clutter Clearing TV channel. Comfort clutterholic. I didn't go through this stage because it wasn't appropriate. I carried on through. But here's the details of a comfort clutterholic. And again, you may recognise yourself in this description. A comfort clutterholic can often be mistaken for a secret or mild clutterholic. The name comes from people who give the appearance of being comfortable in their homes, while there are actually one or two areas that they struggle to control. And the fact that they take comfort either through frequent shopping or by holding on to sentimental items from the past. You're likely to see that they suffer from compulsive, obsessive buying, which is the accumulation area. The accumulation area is the biggest challenge for a comfort clutterholic. This is not limited to people who spend beyond their means. It also includes people who spend an inordinate amount of time shopping or who chronically think about buying things that they never actually purchase, such as looking through catalogues, magazines, online for things to buy, and or storage solutions for their clutter, even if they don't actually buy them. Both buying and thinking about buying acts as a mood enhancer. A comfort clutterholic avoids having to make decisions about their existing clutter by focusing on storage solutions, more shopping, and focusing on things that they believe will make their home look nice, so look comfortable. All this is done to make them feel good or better about themselves and take them out of their homes, either literally or mentally, distracting them from the reality of what is, so what their home is like. They have a significant amount of things coming into their home on a daily or weekly basis, and they have a significant amount of things going out of their home. Clothes to make them look and feel better is a common type of clutter, new clutter. Holding on to sentimental clutter from the past is a common type of old clutter that is often stored in attics or off-site self-storage facilities. Therefore, it's out of sight. They can often keep several or most rooms in their home almost or completely clutter-free from visible or hidden clutter to make sure they appear comfortable or uncluttered. They will change their mind and return what they buy relatively quickly, either daily or weekly, due to the guilt, financial worry, or not wanting those they live with to suspect that they're acquiring more. This uses a lot of mental and physical energy and time. Their visible clutter that stays in their home will accumulate slowly because the significant amount coming in is only slightly more than the amount going out of their home on a regular basis. So that only slightly more accumulates. So that's why they look like a secret or mild clutterholic. A comfort clutterholic will, given the opportunity, bring new potential clutter into the home on a regular basis, usually through shopping. They will procrastinate with dealing with the root cause of their accumulation because it doesn't look like they're a clutterholic. They get easily distracted by special offers and nice looking things. They see an offer, then work out how they can justify buying that item rather than deciding what they need and seeing what can fulfill that need. They are almost certainly a procrastinator who allows other things to interrupt any time that they set aside for doing their clutter clearing. They often dislike being in their homes, get bored with domestic or mundane routines, and shop to take themselves mentally or physically out of their home so they can get some comfort from new, shiny things that represent new starts, new opportunities, a change from their everyday lives. And finally, a comfort clutterholic is usually in denial about the extent of their problem, believing they are just a bit cluttered because there isn't a significant amount of visible clutter or because it's confined to just one room or area. So, do you recognise yourself with the comfort clutterholic? Like I say, this is a type of clutterholic which is much more prevalent since the beginning of the recession, because we accumulate a lot, we buy a lot, but we feel guilty. We haven't got the space. We can't buy bigger homes like we used to, so we actually get it off the conveyor belt just as quickly. Okay, the last type of clutterholic, and the most popular common type of clutterholic, is the habitual clutterholic. Habitual clutterholic. Now then, this represents 56%. 56% of my clients and subscribers over the last 12 years. Now then, I mentioned that I carried on past being a mild clutterholic, and I stormed on through to being an habitual clutterholic. Okay, I went a little bit further. I was on my way to being a hoarder. Now then, because this is the most popular type of clutterholic that I help, you may well recognise yourself in this. And if you do, that's okay. Okay, so a habitual clutterholic is so named because their clutter is a habit that is so ingrained that it takes a significant amount of time and effort to deal with the clutter. You're likely to see that they have an equal amount of visible and hidden clutter. They have more coming onto the conveyor belt than coming off. So in a blitz, they notice their clutter accumulating or reappearing over a short period of time. They usually do a grocery shop once or twice a week. They will be unable to thoroughly clean their homes due to the clutter. They will usually browse for non-grocery items, clothes, electrical items, books, etc., buying when they see something they like rather than because they need it. They often get bored easily and struggle to commit and complete tasks and hobbies. They accumulate clutter without even realising it because it's hard to notice new clutter amongst the old clutter. Things are either put where there's free space or a free surface, or on top of existing piles of clutter rather than in a clearly defined home. They will usually have blitzes on their clutter once or twice a year. They sometimes get things out of their home quickly and easily in a blitz, but because they haven't created the new habits that they need to reduce the ongoing accumulation, the clutter returns. They are most likely to use a ruthless or weeding method to their decluttering. They usually believe that they just need help to get on and do it, to make time, or need help with making decisions, believing that if they can get it back to normal quickly, they will be able to keep it that way. They rarely have the patience to do a little and often and create the new habits required to maintain what they achieve with their blitzes. They want a quick and easy solution, such as a blitz, because they often don't have the patience to commit to a journey. They are almost certainly a procrastinator who allows other things to interrupt any time they set aside for doing their clutter clearing. They usually struggle with the patience required to do a little and often in order to create the new habits required to maintain a clutter-free home. They may suspect or know or accept that there are underlying reasons for having their clutter that are not related to a genuine usefulness or need for the things. They have lots of post and paperwork clutter amongst more general clutter. If you open their cupboards, drawers and out-of-sight places, you would probably find their belongings stuffed in and disorganised. More than half of the contents of their clutter are out-of-date things, to-do jobs that haven't been done, things that have been bought to use but never been used, bargain buys and special offers. Someone who is a habitual clutterholic will struggle to use their rooms for their intended purpose, such as having people round to dinner and eating at the dining room table, using a spare room as a bedroom. They are likely to have stopped inviting guests round because of the shame, embarrassment or feelings of failure that they have because of the clutter. And finally, a habitual clutterholic will not feel that their clutter is as bad as the clutter of the people featured on the TV hoarding programs, so will often avoid seeking help, believing they just need time to deal with it themselves or that they just need expensive help to clear it. Does that sound familiar? And if it does, that's okay. Like I say, 56% of the people that I work with and have worked with are that type of clutterholic. That's where I was. In fact, I was probably there. Now, if you do relate to the TV programs and think you may be a hoarder, I have a very specific way of helping hoarders, so just drop me an email or give me a call, and we can talk about the hoarder end of the scale. Now, as I've said, I went on my journey, on my way to being at this end of the scale. I went through the other types of clutterholic, but the good news is, wherever you are on that scale, you can do a U-turn. I did my U-turn. It took me a year to do the U-turn because it took me a year to work out what to do in order to start reducing the amount of clutter that I had. But wherever you are on this scale, you can do the U-turn. And depending on how far down the scale you are, that will determine how long it's going to take to get back to the clear end of the scale, because that's where we're headed, that's our goal. And not only how far down the scale you are, but also obviously how much time you commit to doing the doing, whether you're doing that on your own or whether you're doing that with my help, making decisions about what comes off the conveyor belt so we can reduce the amount of clutter, learning the skills, reducing the accumulation end of the conveyor belt so that we don't just replace the clutter that is coming off the conveyor belt, and learning the habits and the routines that we need to keep the organisation area of the conveyor belt organised and clutter free. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. If you think you might know what type of clutterholic you are, let me know. Type it below, because again, I've been at this end, so nobody's as bad as me, I'm sure. Let's just share, because again, those people who watch this video after you can take comfort from knowing that they are not alone. Now, the next video that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to give you 10 ways to reduce the accumulation end of your conveyor belt. As you will have noticed, with all of these types of clutterholic, the accumulation end of the conveyor belt is a problem. It's a challenge. So I'm going to give you in the next video 10 quick and easy ways, maybe not easy, but 10 ways that you can reduce the accumulation end of your conveyor belt now and stop that clutter growing. So I hope that's been useful. I hope you've recognised yourself in one of the types of clutterholic that I describe. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Do share below what type of clutterholic you think that you are, and I shall see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.